though bring on board Vishal Manchanda, Senior VP, Institutional Research, Systematics Group, joining us, one of the oldest analysts on the street tracking pharma. So will be good getting that perspective as to what's playing out. Vishal, one of the big themes that's playing out is all of the approvals from the USFDA perspective that's coming through. Uh, are you expecting that positivity to continue, at least for the Indian pharma industry? And who, in terms of key stocks or key players, should benefit from this trend playing out?
Right. So I think USFDA approval, they kind of are generally erratic. It's difficult to predict them because at least for the complex ones, the complex generics, you can't really predict when they'll come. Some companies have been waiting for certain large approvals to come through, but kind of we have been so it's like more than a year since we have been waiting for these approvals to pan out. But unfortunately, they haven't come so far. But at least the smaller ones, the plain vanilla generic approvals, they generally keep coming in and kind of help companies maintain base revenues to a level wherein they can kind of fight the erosion in the base business. So broadly, I think the larger ones that we are waiting for, we are yet to see those, because one thing that the industry has lost is generic Revlimid, and they want to kind of get this offset by newer ones.
Vishal, another trend that's playing out is that many of the companies are now moving towards allied nutraceutical sector. There we've seen small acquisitions been done by many companies. Do you see that as one of the emerging sectors for many of the pharma companies, given that domestic growth has now almost been plateauing?
Yes, you're right. So like almost all companies are looking for multiple avenues to kind of build from where they are today. So as we see the US, which is a large component of the business, we see limited growth prospects there. So what companies are actually looking at is nutraceuticals, consumer healthcare, and biosimilars as the new growth avenues. So I think both these would require a certain gestation period before these businesses become profitable. Companies have started investing, and probably they're getting more aggressive around these areas.
Biosimilars, Vishal, that's the one that I wanted to talk about, because there's been a lot of chatter around it in the market. What would it take for Indian companies to actually succeed? And so far, who do you think is winning the race?
Sorry, I didn't get the question. Which category you said?
Biosimilars.
Biosimilars. So we know Biocon is something which has kind of been there for a long time. They started very early in this space. And probably I think the next 2 years are expected to be very strong for them, for Biocon. But companies which are progressing well and should be the next ones to look for would be Dr. Reddy's, Lupin. So I think these are the two companies that have a strong pipeline, and we should see that shaping in the next 3-4 years. So I think these companies can be between $500 million to $1 billion in terms of the biosimilar top line, if we kind of have a 4 to 5 year horizon.
Wow, that should be large. Vishal, in terms of profit pools, everybody's talking about innovation, right? GLP-1 is one, CDMO is the other. Where will, and specialty products also probably, where will the new profit pools come from? And again, if you can give us a sense as to who the key beneficiaries of these profit pools, emerging profit pools, could be?
Yeah. So I think innovation is something companies will need to kind of invest a lot before they start seeing profits coming from innovation. So Sun probably has built a platform on the innovation front, and they've created a large business. We will see Wokhard soon getting into this journey, wherein they'll have a large profit pool coming from their antibiotic molecule. They're looking to commercialize this in the US and the rest of the world on their own. Zydus is also on an innovation journey, and probably they should be launching their first NC in the US around FY 20, end of this financial year or early next year. So multiple companies should enter the race, but I think it will take time for a large profit pool to kind of reflect in the base earnings. On the CDMO front, there are multiple companies, but I think the best poised would be the larger ones like Divi's, Laurus, and maybe the one of the emerging names is Newland. So I think these are better poised in the race. Piramal Pharma is also a large name in the category. We'll have to wait and see how the CDMO outsourcing pans out. We have been optimistic around this, and certain companies are probably benefiting from the theme. But I think we'll have to wait and see how it eventually pans out in terms of business coming out of China and coming more to India.
Vishal, when the generic branded generic GLP-1 market opened up in India, it was expected that it will be a bigger market. But the initial few months seems to be that things are not picking up as much, and there's so much of oversupply in the market because there are at least 15 players in the market today. Do you think that it's going to be a slow start for GLP-1 in India? It will take much more time in that sense?
I think eventually I would still believe this category will become very large, and it would be shaped up by patient and physician experience as they kind of prescribe it more. So what they kind of, how patients experience in terms of the overall health improvement that the drug promises, and how physicians get a response. So, but looking at the global trends, I would stick to the view that we'll see this category emerging very large in India, and every month we'll see positive growth on the base. So it will keep building up from where it is. And in terms of the number of players, there are multiple players who have launched, but I think what will happen is maybe the top 5 or top 6 players would kind of would get a larger chunk of the market. Say 80% of the market or 90% of the market would be with the top 5, top 6 players.
Right. And Vishal, just to add to that, do you sense that so far domestic formulations as a market is perhaps undervalued? I mean, look at the leaps and bounds that Indian pharma itself is making and the kind of domestic consumption demand, which is also seeing an uptick. You think the street is currently undervaluing that? And if so, who do you think are going to be the larger players from an investment angle that one can bet on?
So I think among the fastest growing companies on the domestic front remains Sun Pharma. Although it has the largest base here, despite the large base, they continue to outperform the markets and also outperform their larger peers in the space. So that company is something that's doing extraordinarily well in the India pharma market, and I would prefer Sun over the others because from a valuation perspective too, that looks attractive, and obviously the growth is also there in the space.
All right, Vishal, thank you so much for coming in and speaking to us. This has been extremely productive.
Thank you.
All right, what we'll do, viewers, is slip into a very short break. On the other side, we'll start getting you some of the stocks you want to keep on your radar for this morning's day of trade. Stay with us here on ET Now.